This story I'm going to tell you is something that might have you roll your eyes, but I promise this happened, and I wish I was lying. So this happened about a year ago, and I'm still shaken up by it. I actually often have vivid nightmares about those few days we spent out there. I have never been able to explain it, and I really don't talk about it since it seems so unbelievable. The only person I've ever told is my wife. Anyways, about a year ago, I took my family on a camping trip down to a campsite along the Appalachian Mountains. I don't really remember the name of the site, and honestly, I just kinda want to forget all about it. It took us a few hours to get there. It was me, my wife, and my 2 kids. Once we arrived at the campsite, we all piled out of the cramped car and just admired the beauty of the forest. And man, it was beautiful. It was a relatively large campsite with your standard clearing for a tent, along with a fire pit not too far away. I set up the tent while my wife and kids were making a game out of who could bring the most firewood to camp. I really enjoyed watching my kids running around with absolutely no worries, just having fun, just being kids. It reminded me of all the camping trips I used to go on when I was younger. Later that night, we all gathered at the fire pit and made s'mores while watching the stars come out. It was very peaceful, a much needed retreat for me and my family. Once the fire died, we all piled into the tent. I was out quick. I have always been an early riser, and like most mornings, I was the only one awake. I snuck out of the tent and started a small fire to make some coffee for me and my wife. She would usually wake up an hour or two after I did. With coffee in my cup, I decided to go explore a little beyond the campsite. I just chose a direction and started walking. After about 5 minutes, I found something that just made me feel off. It was a den, maybe? I'm not really sure, honestly. I wouldn't consider myself an outdoorsman. Anyways, it was a hill of some sort with the side carved out. It was big enough to where I could nestle down in if I wanted to. But after I saw what was inside, I most definitely did not want to venture inside. It was littered with bones, all sorts of them, some small game, and bigger bones that looked like it belonged to bigger animals. Now I know this is normal in the open outdoors. Animals need places to sleep and eat. I understand that. But this just felt different. I can't explain it. I couldn't get the thought out of my head that it was something bad. I know that sounds cliche, but that's genuinely how I felt. Like my human or survival instincts were throwing red flags, trying to tell me something bad called this home. But I just brushed it off. That was a mistake. Later that night, I was telling stories to the kiddos around the campfire. We had spent all day exploring. Of course, I made sure not to explore the path I had taken earlier. I didn't want to scare the kids. They were exhausted. As they were cleaning up and getting ready for bed, I walked to the edge of the camp perimeter to relieve myself. I was doing my business, just gazing into the forest, and that's when I saw it. If it wasn't for the eyes, I would have missed it. It was tall. That's the only thing I could tell from just seeing the eyes. It was way too dark to make anything else out. The eyes made me shiver. They were huge and looked to be solid white. I'm not really good at judging distance, but I do know that it was close enough for me to almost panic. And from the way it was standing, I swear to God, it was looking right at me. I was completely frozen. I'm not sure how long I stood there, but it felt like hours. And all that time, I was watching this thing. I never even seen it blink. It just stared at me, unmoving. I slowly started backing up towards the campsite. Once I made it to the tent, I stopped. There was no way I could gather my family and track back to the car in the dark. It's just not an option. It was about a quarter mile down the road. That's where we left our car. We had to hike up to the campsite. I decided that I would make the fire as big as possible before heading inside the tent. My thought was having a fire keeps most animals away from campsites, so maybe it was the same with this thing. I hoped. Once I had some high flames coming from the fire, I felt good enough to head inside. But before I did, I slowly walked back to the edge to take one more look at it. My eyes might have been playing tricks on me, but I'm pretty sure they weren't. It just feels better to tell yourself that maybe it's the mind playing tricks instead of seeing the truth. It was definitely closer. I'm not sure how much closer, but it had definitely came closer. And now, I know without a doubt that this thing was really tall. Like 7 or maybe even 8 feet tall. I was looking up to see its eyes. As I stood there, every survival instinct in my body told me to get inside the tent now. Without taking my eyes off of it, I started backing up towards the tent. As I was walking backwards, I stepped on a stick and it broke in two. My heart sank into my stomach. I stopped moving long enough to see the eyes turn sideways, like when a dog hears a weird sound for the first time and it tilts its head side to side. This is what did it for me. I finally caved. I dashed for the tent and sealed it up. I didn't even come close to sleep that night. And all throughout the night, I could hear something walking around the perimeter of our campsite, but it never actually came into camp. As soon as the sun came up, I packed everything and we rushed to the car and headed straight home. To this day, I have no idea what that creature was and what intentions it had. It still keeps me up at night, thinking of what it would have done if it came into our camp.